And I think that's the step that Amber doesn't connect. I don't think she thinks about the fact that she shares private information and it becomes public information, and now anyone can comment on it because it's public information. Welcome to a video about selfishness, manipulation, and deceit that we'll call Dark Anthropology. And we'll study it by looking at various people in the girl world and the societies they have made. Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome to an episode of Dark Anthropology. Ooh, it's not spooky season, but we got some stuff to talk about. And I got notes, so if you see me looking over at my notes, that's why I'm looking at my notes. Right, so we are going to really kind of get into dark anthropology principles and that kind of stuff, and it is a work in progress, and I need people to understand going into this is not an academic field inside of anthropology. This is really just something I'm kind of making up. I am using anthropology and I am using the concepts of dark psychology. I'm mushing them together along with theories about manipulation and self-identity, things that have been studied by anthropology, and I'll link some articles down below. A couple of them are about politics. Yep. Politics manipulation and anthropology. And if you guys want to sit and read them, you are welcome to do so. But those are where I'm kind of like pulling ideas from, kind of putting together a framework for this dark anthropology. I've had more than one person reach out to me asking more about this as anthropologists. I've had at least 3 of you now. If you guys, here's the thing. I'm always pretty open about the fact that I'm a trained anthropologist. I went to school for anthropology. That's what my bachelor's is in. And then I went into archaeology, and I've done archaeology pretty much my entire career. Anthropology and archaeology are linked very tightly. However, anthropology is more of an academic field, and you're going to find more people like doing the anthropological papers and going to the conferences and that kind of stuff. And if you're one of those people, that's amazing. You knock yourselves out. I am not that person. I did not enjoy it. I enjoyed going to the socializing aspect of the conferences and stuff, but I didn't personally enjoy the presenting and the putting together of the panels and the this and the that and the politics of it all. I really didn't enjoy that. So I never pursued that end of the career, if that makes sense. Now, for those of you that have been reaching out to me and been asking me about this, if you guys want to take this and run with it, knock yourselves out. I am more than happy to turn over the meager notes that I have put together and let you guys run with that. I currently, as of this moment, the only type of publishing that I care to do about this topic is these videos. So all of that being said, I just kind of wanted to like put all that out there because this is going to get really deep and this is going to get really heavy. And honestly, I have put a lot of work into this, and I have put a lot of thought into this, and I have put anthropological principles to work on this stuff. And it's going to get really verbose and very wordy. And there might be moments where I may say things that don't click. And if you're somebody who's listening to this and a term or a concept or something I said doesn't make sense, or you need clarification, just ask me down in the comments section. I will try to get to it. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready to go into the dark woods of dark anthropology? So before we get into any of that, we need to understand the concept of video being inherently manipulative. This entire video is manipulation. Wah. This isn't even my real background, if you can't figure that one out, because I keep ghosting in and out. But because video is itself manipulation, not in a bad way. You know, this isn't me. Well, okay, I am trying to communicate with you. All right, that's the thing. I'm trying to communicate with you. And to do that, I am using many different visual cues, okay? I even put makeup on today. I don't wear makeup on the regular. I really probably only put it on for, hot dates and these videos. And even then, I'm not putting a whole lot on. I'm really just putting enough on so that you can see my face. Okay. But I know that I look better on camera when I have minimal amounts of makeup on. All right. And since I want you to pay attention to me and I want you to give the words that I'm getting ready to say some kind of value, I need you to be able to look at me and I need you to be able to understand my facial expressions and whatnot. All right. So those simple actions, like I have a desired outcome that I would like to get from these videos. And to do that, I am willing to employ various visual tactics to do so. I want you guys to have kind of a spooky feel when it comes to, you know, the dark anthropology, because we all like a good spooky ghost story, right? So we've got this beautiful woods. This is beautiful. I thought this was the greatest picture. All right, so we've established, I hope we've established this baseline that video and audio, anything where you're not in the room, anything that I've put together, even books, photographs, paintings, any kind of visual communication, any kind of audio communication that isn't one-to-one, face-to-face, and even that we can argue, is inherently manipulation, all right? You are being manipulated. The other thing that we have to establish going forward from here is that video, audio, any kind of recorded media, lots of other things are as well, but we are just focusing on recorded media, specifically video right now, YouTube style videos. These are material culture. I am creating material culture. It is material culture because it is man-made. Nothing here is by accident. I am creating a visual artifact. This video is now an object, all right? And the same time that it is an object, it is also a space, okay? This is a moment in time. You can watch this video 10 years from now. Nothing will have changed in the video, okay? That's the beauty of video, and also kind of like the ennui of the video, like, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 years from now, this video may still exist and I will not. But there'll be a record that I existed. And now we know why the pharaohs like to carve pictures of themselves onto their tombstones, into their graves. So we've established video being inherently manipulative, and we've established that as far as this particular set of videos is going to be concerned, that video is material culture, and video is an artifact, all right? It is man-made, it is manipulated by man, it is not created by accident. Videos do not just spontaneously occur in nature. They have to be created, and they have to be created by human hands. And even then, I can record this video all day long until I publish it onto a worldwide web. That wasn't really the word I was looking for, but you get my point. A worldwide platform like YouTube. The video is still a material culture. It's still an artifact, but I haven't given it to everyone else yet. And once I have done that, now it becomes global culture, because you can be watching this video in Japan at 4 in the morning and somebody else can watch the exact same video in like Thailand at like 5 in the evening. I don't know if people are watching me there. If you are, hello. But the point is, this video can be watched by thousands, millions of people all at once. And each person is going to have their own personal experience with this video, all right? Which, in turn, renders this video and the subject of said video, moi, as an object. Which is an interesting thing to say, because on this channel, we recently watched a video by a creator called Glitter and Lasers. And it's a retro react to one of her older videos from 2020. And in that video, she says something to the effect of, people are treating me like an object. And I know what she means. I know what she meant. But it's interesting to use that set of terms in that way, because it is almost impossible not to. Because this video is an object. All right? While I am in this video, I am the object. Why does this matter? Why did I need to establish these two baselines? Because YouTube creators, like Amberlynn Reid, who I understand is not the most popular of the girls in girl world right now, but She is the basis of this channel, all right? The Amberlynn Reid and Anthropology are the two bases of this channel. Because of that, we can look at Amberlynn, or we are looking at Amberlynn's videos as not just entertainment, but material culture that shape and reflect societal values and norms. The things that Amber does, the things that Amber says, the things that Amber puts in her videos and then publishes become part of what is lovingly referred to as the Amberverse, or Amberland, because I think it's funny. But the girl world and the Amberverse are both fairly established subcultures on the internet and on YouTube. If you are watching this video, it is probably because you know who Amberlynn is. Why ever you watch her is not really the point. The point is to acknowledge that the videos that she produces and publishes, not Amber herself, just the videos, become material culture. And they become the norm within girl world and the Amberverse. They manipulate viewer perception, and they contribute to the cultural understanding within those subcultures. The girl world being the greater umbrella and Amberverse being the smaller piece inside. The importance of understanding that Amber's videos create social norms or cultural norms within the Amberverse and within girl world is important, because it is the intersection, the blending of reality and constructed narratives. Amber, we talk about this a lot on the channel. Amber has a persona that she wishes to project outwards. Whether she's successful or not is not the issue at hand here. The thing is that Amber tries to project a persona of herself to her audience through her videos. All right. She is creating a product that is Amberlynn Reid, and we are the consumers, and we consume this video. The reality of Amber's world, of Amber, of the human that is Amber, and the human reality that Amber lives and operates in, we, the audience, cannot know that. I know a lot of us will argue that we can, but we really can't. We can never know the reality of it, because we are only reacting, we are only interacting with the narrative that Amber is providing for us. All right. Even when people are doing things like digging into her mom's past record, or even when people are documenting chronologically Amber's world online. Okay. And some people go even deeper than that. We've talked about anti-fans and the levels that people will go to. Even then, though those things are based on reality and they come from reality, they're still part of the narrative. And this is where it really starts to get interesting, at least for me, because now we don't just have the narrative that Amber is creating. Successful or unsuccessful, not the question. Amber is creating a narrative. Now we also have the added narrative that is being created by the Amberverse itself. And the narrative that's being created outside of the Amber videos. We use the Amber videos, but then we build off of those, okay? And some people build in different ways. That's kind of where I really get really interested. Amber's interesting in a train wreck kind of way to me. But it's the Amberverse that is really interesting. The subculture that is the Amberverse is the really fascinating part, because this is where the consumer, the user, the reactor takes this little piece of the internet, takes Amber and Amber's videos, and builds something more out of it. All right. I am making videos about dark anthropology right now. Probably wouldn't have even bothered to come up with the concept if I hadn't started reacting to Amber. So if she wants to toot her little horn about that, she is more than welcome to do so. Toot toot. All right. So when we are considering YouTubers, and Amber specifically, we talk about manipulation. We're definitely talking about manipulation via video. And Amber's manipulation not only pertains to how we consume her videos or how the Amberverse interacts with her, But it also affects the subjects of the videos that she makes. Like, she likes to put personal matters, some that should not be shared, out onto the internet, which turns them into public discourse. And that has actually been the whole conversation that's going on right now with Amber's, the last 3 videos that Amber has put out about her mother, and this whole thing about Mama Lynn Gate. All right. Mama Lynn's history, Mama Lynn's past has come up, and that's the topic we're going to get into. But that is an example of Amber sharing private information and it's becoming public discourse. I'm not saying that the powers that be upon the vast great internet would not have dug into Mama Lynn's past and drug up everything that there is to know about Mama Lynn publicly. I'm not saying that would not have happened, but Amber herself has used Mama Lynn and Mama Lynn's story and Mama Lynn's recovery as part of her narratives within her videos. So Amber herself is participating in this particular discourse, whether she wants to admit that, even though there's video of it, or not, right? So this transformation affects how, not only how we, the audience, are perceiving the Amberverse and Amber and all of that, but it's also affecting how people are perceiving Mama Lynn. There's a lot of people who were not aware of Mama Lynn's past because they were not long-term watchers of Amber. But now, if you're watching and you don't know what's going on, you must be very, very new, is all I have to say there. But most of that is driven by Amber wishing to discuss her mother's past and her mother's recovery herself. And we'll jump into that here in a minute, but I do want to keep harping on this concept of videos as material culture because it is important when we get to the greater conversation. All right, so the creation of, videos as material culture, there is the creation of the public persona. We've spoken about this earlier in other videos, but we're going to talk about it one more time. There is the real Amberlynn. The point is that somewhere out there in the great wide world, there is Amberlynn Reid. Amberlynn Reid is a real life person. She lives, she breathes, she eats, she cries, she hopefully feeds her animals on a regular basis. What we see, we the Amberverse, we the reactors, we the audience, all we can ever see is what real Amber shares with us. This will never be reality. All right. It can get really close. It can look a lot like reality, but this can never be reality just by its inherent nature. All right. Going back to video as manipulation. Part of this starts off, part of this not ever being able to be real is this, the online Amber. This is the persona of Amber. This is the Amber that real Amber shares and shows us. All right. It's also the Amber that, remember we talked about people within the Amberverse creating a outside narrative outside of the videos that Amber shares, or they are creating and expanding the narrative of those videos. That Amber, this online Amber, that is also part of that Amber persona. The persona that Amber puts out there has many facets, but 2 of which we're going to focus on is that there is the Amber persona that real Amber wants to project out there. There is the Amber that Amber... Well, let's do this. There's the ALR that Amber wants to have out there. But here's the problem, and all great artists will know this. Even not great artists will know this. Once you put something out there, once Amber, real Amber, puts persona, digital Amber out there, we can take that Amber and run with it. All right? And some people do. They dig into it. Some people just straight up create shit about this Amber and won't let it go. All right? But that's the thing. Once Amber has put that digital persona of herself out there on the internet, she has no control over it anymore. So what happens to digital Amber once digital Amber is now part of the greater culture of the Amberverse is any and every viewer is going to interact with that video on a different level. A lot of us are going to have similar reactions. However, we are each having our own individual reaction, and each of our individual reactions is building the digital persona that is online Amber. I told you this was going to get verbose. We have the persona that has become part of material culture itself. It is now an object, to put it in blunt terms. This is a representation that the people, us, the viewers, will be interacting with, discussing, and analyzing. I can sit here all day long and tell you that I am talking about Amberlynn. There's no way I can talk about real life Amberlynn because I don't have anything that I can talk about. I don't know this person. I don't interact with this person. I have no one-to-one interactions with said person. And even if I did, it all becomes hearsay. It doesn't, this is very complicated. I'm very sorry. But I can talk about and interact with and make videos like this about digital Amberlynn, the product of real Amberlynn. All right. And this Amberlynn is material culture. This Amberlynn is an artifact. This Amberlynn is an object. Cultural artifacts. So each video is a cultural artifact that captures specific cultural and personal moments. This video will exist until either somebody erases it from the interweb or the internet crashes and no longer exists. Because I'm sure as hell not going to keep a backup of it. Sorry. These videos, Amber's videos, to some degrees more successful than others, these videos are documents, not only of lifestyle, but of struggles and controversies. They can be daily routines. We can be preserving a moment in history. We can be trying to interpret things, express things, communicate things. All right. Videos serve so many purposes, but in the end, they become digital records. All right. They become a digital artifact. And because videos, especially videos within the Amberverse, are recorded, they are preserved, they are documented, they are analyzed, they are criticized, they are expanded upon, they are cut down and mixed in with other videos, creating new and exciting artifacts. Because of all of that, that makes it part of the greater culture that is the subculture of the Amberverse and girl world. All right. So do I need to talk about the manipulative nature of YouTube videos? Let's just go over it real quick one more time before we jump in, and then I promise that will be all we talk about from here on out. All right. The manipulative nature of YouTube videos. Editing and presentation. There's not a single video up there that has not been edited in some way. Even if it's just something as simple as putting a image at the beginning and a thank you card at the end and no editing to the video in between. It is still manipulation. It is still presentation. Decisions were made. I can put a raw video up where I'm like, I'm not editing this. You guys get to see how the sausage is made. That's fine, but that's the decision I made, and it's still presentation. So I am still choosing how to present my video to the greater public. Strategic edits can emphasize emotions, misrepresent situations, or highlight conflicts that keep viewers engaged, but may not accurately represent reality. I would argue that it does not represent reality in any way, because as someone great smarter than I am, big smarter than I am, once said, there's 3 sides to every story. There's your version, there's my version, and there's the truth. And you'll notice neither of us have the truth. So the feedback loop also exists. We talk about that, the ecosystem of the Amberverse. Amber makes a video, reactors react to the video, Amber reacts to the reactors react to Amber reacting, and the cycle continues. All right. That is actually what's been happening quite nicely with this whole Mama Lynn thing. Getting into the truly darker aspects of the manipulation of these videos is monetization and viewer engagement. It's not necessarily evil. We're not talking about that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to want to monetize and get viewer engagement on a video. Lord knows I would like it, because we get rewarded for it from YouTube. The darker side of this starts to happen when greater amounts of manipulation are applied, that misrepresentation, that creating controversy, that fanning the fires. That happens specifically to create viewer engagement, which will increase monetization of a video. As long as you stay with this TOS, which apparently gets trickier and trickier every year. Thanks, Google. So, all right, let's move on to what you all are really here for, which is the dark anthropology of Amberlynn, specifically the dark anthropology of Amberlynn's mother's exposure through not only Amber's videos, but also the videos of other reactors. There, if you're unaware, 5 videos ago, Mama Lynn made a brief 2-3 second appearance in one of Amberlynn's videos, and another reactor took it upon themselves to read out the entirety of Mama Lynn's criminal record. Now, Mama Lynn's criminal record is a public record. It can be obtained for I think somebody said for like $10 or something crazy like that, if you call the Oklahoma courts and request it. That's the defense of what happened. People have been discussing Mama Lynn's record on various parts of the Amberverse on the internet for decades at this point. Probably not exactly a decade, but easily for 3/4 of Amber's channel's career on YouTube. What got talked about during that clip was not new information in any way, shape, or form. It was just unexpected in the moment that it was presented. And there are a lot of people who are not hardcore followers of Amberlynn, therefore they would not know this information and did not know this information, because there had been up to that point no reason for them to know it. There was no reason for them to interact with that information. And personal opinions aside, when that reactor read out loud on their live all of the charges that had been brought up against Mama Lynn, it brought her criminal record to the forefront to people who have never heard about it before. And it also reminded a bunch of people who had heard about it that it existed. Was it out of context? That's kind of the discussion that's going on, is whether or not the context of that was appropriate or not. Amber herself got upset about it because within those charges, there is an apparent typo for a charge that people decided to take great umbrage on, which is fine. Because this particular charge caused so much outrage, Mama Lynn's personal life started to get invaded. People started messaging Mama Lynn. People apparently started contacting her. I don't know if they were calling her, but they were reaching out to her outside of normal channels. All right. According to Amber. That's the other part of this. According to Amber. And that caused Mama Lynn some stress, some distress. And I could understand. That would be distressing, yes? If random people started contacting you on your personal devices, that would be weird. Amber decided to go on the offensive and decided to call people out for doing that, for reading, we'll call this particular person out, for reading Mama Lynn's record. Not long after that, a second reactor called the courts to get a clarification about this particular charge, because the charge was vague. It wasn't clear as to what the actual charge had been. And so this person called not only to get a copy, I'm guessing, but also to get a clarification. And that's when the greater Amberverse found out that this was a typo on Mama Lynn's record. Weird, but it happens, okay? It doesn't take much to convince me that's a real thing. And because this second creator found this out and shared it with the greater Amberverse, a third reactor decided to make a correction video, a brief correction video. I won't call it an apology video because I don't really feel like it needed to be, because by the time this third reactor was responding to it, they hadn't done anything, so they didn't need to apologize. But this third reactor, who has a much larger following within the Amberverse, shared this information with the rest of us, and we all cottoned on, and we all decided to walk back that particular charge, because it turns out that charge was not actually, it wasn't an actual charge. It's a real charge, it just wasn't on a record. That then caused Amber to create another series of videos talking about her mom's past, and how this particular series of events are affecting Amber and her mom. Notice the series there. Amber and then her mom. Not her mom, Amber. Anyway, during these videos that Amber put out, both the one prior to the clarification and the two that came after the clarification, maybe there's 4 videos. Point being, Amber tried to control the narrative of the story. First, she tried to deny that the charge was even a thing by saying that the individual on those charges was not her mom. It was someone with a similar name, which was not the case, because I do believe the date of birth and the mugshot on said charges do match who Mama Lynn is. Again, these are public records, which is why we can talk about it like this. After the charges were clarified, Amber continues to talk about them, and this is one of those things she does. Remember that she originally said, "That's not my mom, that's someone with the same name." After the clarification occurs, Amber owns that those are charges against her mom. However, the charge in question was not real. This is where we start talking about manipulation. The manipulation started well before all of this. The manipulation started all the way back when Amber first started bringing up her mother's criminal record and her mother's past in her own videos, which Amber has been doing pretty much her entire career on YouTube. All the way back in what was lovingly called the Crystal Era, Amber was making videos talking about her past and her childhood and her parents and their trials and tribulations and the shit that happened in her childhood. Not an issue, but these are things that Amber brings up. This is taking private information, because this is private information for Amber. This is Amber's private life, private past, private history, and she decides to share it with the internet. This is not inherently bad, but it does take something that was once private and now has made it public. And once it becomes public, it is up for public discourse. And I think that's the step that Amber doesn't connect. I don't think she thinks about the fact that she shares private information and it becomes public information, and now anyone can comment on it because it's public information. That's the part where I think Amber has a disconnect. Amber, in her original videos, unironically starts accusing reaction channels of trying to profit off of her mother's story. And I say unironically because this is something that Amber has done many times in the past. There's even a clip of her saying things like, "My views are down and I'm not making as much as I used to, so I'm going to talk about my family." That last bit was a little bit abbreviated, but basically she said, "My views are down, my revenue's down, I want to share stories about my childhood," and then proceeded to tell us stories about her parents. That is using her past directly as a way of engaging viewers to drive up revenue. Not necessarily bad. If people are interested in hearing that story and she feels comfortable sharing it, that's fine. The problem is now that information has become public information. This scenario here, where Amber criticizes reaction channels for exposing her mother's past, whilst doing it herself, continuously, even after the fact, continuously, allows us to apply some principles of dark anthropology to this whole situation here. Yes, there are principles of dark anthropology. I know. I made them. All right. We've got the principles of covert motivations. Principles of covert motivation is the assumption that beneath the overt cultural norms and practices of a society lay covert, secret motivations driven by darker aspects of human psychology, such as greed, power, and manipulation. Applying the principle of covert manipulations to this whole situation with Amber, we can look at the idea of self-preservation here. By publicly blaming the reaction channels, Amber is attempting to control the narrative around her mother's past, which is fine. She's also trying to protect her family's public image, along with her own, which is very important. We talked about the online persona. This is not the this is not a factor of the online persona that Amber wants us to see. And so this is something that she's trying to preserve, to reverse, to control. This is also a strategy to deflect criticism off of herself for doing the exact thing that she's criticizing reaction channels of doing. There we go. So on top of attempting to control a narrative and to protect her online persona's image and to shift blame, this also creates controversy, and everybody loves a good controversy. So this is driving up viewer engagement for her. This is getting eyeballs on her channel. It's definitely getting eyeballs on other people's channels. And by engaging publicly with this dispute with the reaction channels, Amber is increasing engagement on her own channel and on her own videos. The viewer engagement beyond actually watching the video is very important. Amber doesn't have to do this thing that's recommended to pretty much anybody who does social media. It's called the call to action. And at the end of any post or video, I'm supposed to say something to the effect of, smash the like button, or tell me what you think down in the comments section down below, which I do. I do actually want to know people's thoughts. However, it's a call to action. It triggers something in your mind, whether you had intended to leave a comment or not. Now you've been reminded, oh, I hadn't clicked the like button yet. Oh, I need to leave whatever the emoji of the day is, you know. Amber doesn't have to do that. People will interact with her videos just because they're angry, because they want to leave a zinger, because they want to point out something that Amber said or did that was weird or Amber kind of a thing. By doing that, you're interacting with her videos. It keeps the videos alive. It keeps her alive in the algorithm. There's nothing inherently great or special or unique about Amber's content. Amber's content is actually, in the grand scheme of like weight loss and lifestyle vloggers, her stuff is very poorly put together, very poorly constructed. It's not great. There's no reason why videos such as her own should be doing so well in the algorithm. Amber's infamy is what keeps these things going, and people's determination to interact with that infamy keeps the videos going, which is part of the manipulation. Amber knows she doesn't have to do squat to get you to interact with her video. She knows you're going to watch. She knows you're going to leave a comment. She knows you're going to click the dislike button. YouTube don't care. You just interacted with the video. Moving on. Told you guys, it's gonna be a minute. You still here with me? Put some cheese down in the comments section as your emoji. I want to see how many people got this far and are gonna put cheese down in the comments section. And then also leave another comment, because that's how this shit works. Our next dark anthropology principle that I made up is the principle of power dynamics. The principle of power dynamics. This principle emphasizes the analysis of power relations within any cultural context. It involves understanding how the darker traits such as dominance, coercion, and exploitation are embedded and possibly upheld within these cultural norms and practices. I know we don't see Amber as being a particularly influential or powerful YouTube personality. That's fine. That's just another form of power. Control over the narrative. Typical power play. Who owns the story, right? Whose story is it to tell? Remember, we've established for a while in this video now that talking about private stuff on a public platform makes it public discourse. Amber bringing up stuff in her videos makes it public discourse. Amber's reaction to the exposure of her mother's past by other channels highlights her desire to control the narrative. Amber doesn't like that she lost control of the narrative of her mom's past, redemption, future, I guess, going forward. Amber, shares personal stories in an attempt to connect with her audience and to invoke empathy and to be relatable. She doesn't like when other channels use those same stories for their own purposes, because it takes the story outside of her control and she no longer has power over that narrative. She loses control of it. Again, any artist will tell you, once you put your art out there, you have no control over how people are going to interact with it. Amber's running into the same problem here. She shares stories, specifically stories about her mom and her past, in the hopes of invoking relatability and sympathy and feels from the audience. She uses it to distract a lot of times too from other topics. But once it's out there, she loses control of it. And she can't get that control back. You can't get it back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube. You just can't. Because reasons, that's why. Power dynamics also come down to influence and accountability. The reaction channels hold a certain power to influence public perception of content creators like Amberlynn. So, that said, Amber likes to say things like, I didn't create this community. I didn't create the haters. I didn't create the Amberverse. To some degree, she is correct. The Amberverse would not exist if Amberlynn did not exist and create videos. That's dead truth. It would be called something else because we wouldn't be talking about Amber. We'd be talking about Sally Lee. So in that, Amber did create this community because Amber created videos. That's the argument. The influence of the reaction channels over the public perception of Amber is undeniably strong. There's a certain level of trust that is given to reactors, especially some of the larger reactors, whether it's warranted or not. That's not the conversation. The perception of the viewing public of these reactors, small reactors, large reactors, right, is that there's some believability of these individuals. Until they do something egregious and betray the trust of the audience. And that has happened. Reactors have gone too far, and the community will turn their back on them. Keep in mind that these reactors don't necessarily have to be YouTube reactors. We're just kind of talking about YouTube, but there are other spaces on the internet that people interact with, talk about, react to Amber's videos and Amber's media that she puts out there, right? So these moments of accountability, let's put it that way, can come from any facet of the Amberverse community, specifically the reacting community, okay? The influential reactor community. The things that are said, the things that are put out there, the images that are put out there, the counter videos, that kind of stuff. It all molds the image that the greater public has of Amber. I don't want to bring up individual peoples because that's not what this is about. But I think I'm not going to, because it's really not about, this is not about the individual reactors. It's really not. Keeping in mind, I'm fully aware that I am a reactor. So I am part of this. Because reactors are public figures, I am a public figure. I am on this internet. I am giving you videos. You are consuming the product that I have created. So because of that, I am also open to criticism, and I get plenty. And I'm also open to being scrutinized. Again, it happens. I think that's part of a healthy community, a healthy give and take, right? And as a reactor, it's my responsibility to decide how I'm going to react to it. Do I engage with it? Do I not engage with it? Do I walk back accusations against Amberlynn's mom that were unfounded? Do I continue to drive that narrative forward? How I, the reactor, choose to interact with the storyline going forward influences how my audience is going to perceive that. The final principle that we're going to talk about is the principle of ethical reflexivity. I'm using my big words. So the principle of ethical reflexivity is, given the sensitive nature of studying the darker aspects of human behavior, dark anthropology must maintain a high degree of ethical reflexivity. This involves constant self-awareness and critical examination of one's biases, motivations, and the impact of one's work on the subjects and their communities. That's a given in anthropology. We're just putting it in here so that people understand. Now, how does this affect, how do we apply this to Amber? Amber creates her own ethical dilemmas in balancing her transparency with her privacy. We keep going back to Amber brings private stories into her videos, and that makes it public discourse. And then we go back to the concept of consent, and Amber intentionally and unintentionally brings people into the public eye who may not have wanted to be there. She shares her life openly, or tries to share her life openly, includes very sensitive information about her family, and this affects other people. It affects her past girlfriends, it affects her friends, it affects people who might potentially be friends, it's not affecting her family directly. This is the problem that she's coming across, because she wants to and kind of needs to share personal stories just so that, you know, people will be like, oh, I relate. But at the same time, that puts the people who are the subject of those stories into the public eye, and it never works out really well. I've yet to see it work out really well for people. Really good examples of this are past wifey. People dug into her past like lightning strikes. I don't even know. Oh, Alexis, the girl that she was briefly talking to on Facebook, and now her mom. These are all recent examples of this happening. Amber mentions them, Amber interacts with them, and everybody knows everything there is to know about them. And it's not the individual's fault. None of these three people were like, hey, you know what I really want in life? I really want the entirety of the internet to know every single facet of my life and share it in random places on the internet and talk about me incessantly for years. That's never happened. Maybe somewhere, but that didn't happen with these three people. The only reason we don't know who the hell Valentine is because I don't think Valentine's real. So there is no public information. There is no private information to share about Valentine. Coming back to principles of ethic reflexivity, the impact on the subjects, which is what we've been talking about. The impact on the subjects is not just from Amber, it's also from the reaction channels. And this is a part where we the reaction channels, we're responsible for this, you know? We're kind of responsible for, I know I'm saying things that people don't particularly like, and that's fine. We're responsible for the perception of our audiences of Amber. We are also responsible for the impact of the stuff that we cover affecting the people who are the subjects of that. Mama Lynn, for example, Grandma Lynn, Aunt Tammy, any of Amber's girlfriends, any of Amber's potential girlfriends, Amber's animals. Okay. The reaction channels do have some accountability here. And you know what? The channels that I watch, all four of them are pretty good about this, in my opinion. All right. And I try to be about as good about it as I can be within reason. I'm not out there trying to like expose people. But there is this thing going back to accountability and this whole concept of reflexivity, ethical reflexivity. Amber brings it up. We are reaction channels. We react to what Amber does. If Amber is going to continue to talk about things we, the reaction channels, are going to react to it. It's what we do. It's the cycle of this kind of life, it's the cycle of this subculture. Amber makes a video, reactors react to the video. Amber reacts to the reactors react to Amber. Since we're on this very serious topic here, we do have reflective questions, right? About basically the ethics of it all, right? How do we, the greater we, the Amberverse, and this includes Amber in this point, because Amber is the Amberverse, right? How do we develop content, and how do we keep a consistent ethical standard in these types of situations? How do we again, how do we set boundaries so that people who are effectively private individuals, which I will argue Mama Lynn is a private individual, how do we keep that person safe? Because Mama Lynn didn't ask to be part of this, right? That's kind of the overarching storyline here, is Mama Lynn didn't ask for this. It just happened. And it happened because of the Amberverse, because of Amber, right? And what role does the audience have in this? What responsibility does the audience have in shaping these narratives and their own behavior? These are just questions for discussion down in the comments section. See what I did there? I think these are all kind of interesting questions that I don't think really have an answer. I really don't. I think they're things to think about. I think they're thoughts that I will definitely have from here on out when I'm going forward with videos and things, just because it's like, what are the boundaries? Where is the line? How do I know when I've crossed it? Can I see the line before I cross it? Like with the reactor that read off Amber's mother's criminal record, I crossed a line for a lot of people, and that reactor got feedback for it. You know, so was there a point where that line was obvious, where that line didn't have to be crossed, kind of a situation? There are a lot of people that don't think that reactor crossed a line either, so that's why I'm like, these don't have answers. These are up for discussion. But, you know, what is my role as an audience member? You know, what is my responsibility as a viewer? And how can I keep a standard, and how can I maintain it going forward? I do have my own personal limits that I won't cross, and I think I've made those pretty obvious. And I know a lot of reactors do too. Like, that's what makes reacting. That's why everybody watches different reactors. Different reactors are going to have different takes on things because they all have different boundaries. All right, Dark Anthropology is a theoretical approach, very, very theoretical, as in we're making it up, that focuses on the study of human culture through the lens of dark psychology, which encompasses the less savory, often subconscious drives and motivations of human behavior, such as selfishness, manipulation, and deceit. We're seeking to understand how these darker aspects of the human psyche influence cultural practices, social structures, and individual behaviors within said societies. We will explore themes such as power dynamics, exploitation, ethical boundaries, and we aim to provide a deeper, possibly more unsettling insight into the human condition and societal development. How does this apply to Amber? It applies to the Amber. It applies to you. It applies to me. It applies to every reactor in the Amberverse. It applies to every person watching those videos within the Amberverse. You are part of this. Isn't it great to be part of something? One of us. One of us. Anyway, the point is, the Amberverse, a small subsection of Girl World, both of which are very interesting to study. We're applying these principles to both of those. These are both subcultures within the great world of the internet. These things that we are looking at are the shadow culture to the internet culture. Internet culture, I don't know. I don't think you can define internet culture other than it is society on the internet, right? But define world culture, define American culture, that kind of a thing. There's a reason why cultures get broken down into subcultures, because subcultures are way more focused than culture. You catch me? We're looking at Girl World. We are looking at the Amberverse. We are looking at the shadow culture thereof, right? there are positive aspects of both of these things. There's people who come together as a community. I've seen people have beautiful conversations. I've seen people talk about how they're motivated by these things to better their lives, to improve themselves, to, you know, just keep moving forward in a positive way. They just get entertainment value out of it. They really honestly find it interesting. So there are a lot of positive aspects that we can assign to Girl World and to the Amberverse. But there's also that darker underbelly. And a lot of that does have to do with the subjects of Girl World and Amber herself, right? They're not what most of them are not what I would call well-adapted individuals. Do I consider myself one? Depends on the day. But the point is like, we're watching these people because we don't know what they're going to do next. They're like a freaking train wreck and we're just here for the ride, right? Be honest with yourself. You're not watching Amber because you think she's going to lose 500 pounds. So that is the darker side. That is the shadow culture. How is Amber manipulating us? How is Amber controlling power, trying to control power? How is Amber being selfish? How is Amber being deceitful? And how are those things affecting the Amberverse, the viewers, the reactors, the watchers? All right, watchers. But who watches the watchers? So those are 4 principles of dark anthropology as we go forward. And like I said, there's more, but they don't apply right now, so I really don't want to go into them. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, props to you. Gold stars all around, A+. You can put those in the comments section. Allow that to be your emoji. Gold stars and A+. Knock yourselves out because this is a very long video. And we've talked about a lot. I feel like we've talked about a lot. I feel like I've said a lot of stuff that may or may not make sense in the moment. So leave your comments down below, please. If you need clarification for things, let me know. Please put a timestamp. Do me the biggest, hugest favor and just put a timestamp down, because I don't necessarily remember what I said. I see people leave comments a lot, and I love the comments, but they'll like ask me a question or comment on something that I clearly said. I have no idea what the hell what was going on. So if you just leave me a timestamp along with your question, that would be very helpful to me, and that would also help me answer you guys, answer your questions. So that's your assignment. Those are your assignments going forward. Your emojis, and just timestamp your comments for me if you're talking about a particular moment in the video, obviously. And you don't need to timestamp it if you're just commenting on the video overall. Anyway, thank you to everybody who has been supporting the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members who get early access to videos like these. Thank you to everybody who's going to hit the thumbs up button. You don't get early access to anything, but I appreciate it. And yeah, I will see everybody in the next one of these. And if you'd like to contact me more about this, there should be an email down in the comment section. No, there should be an email down in the description. And there's also my Instagram that you can reach out to me on. So, and I'll do my best. I'll do my best. I gave my caveats at the beginning. If you didn't watch that part, you might want to go back and rewatch that part. All right. That's all I've got for you guys. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I will see everyone in the next one. Bye!
This is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.